Hey everyone, we got some big news for Vertiv Holdings stock investors as the company's management team really elaborated on the latest developments in the company's growth prospects given the magnitude of the industry growth of artificial intelligence. So I'm going to share with you those latest details. Let's take a look.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So Vertiv management saying that they are spending research and development efforts to strengthen the portfolio further, adding battery energy storage systems and fuel cells and solutions to the rest of our end-to-end complete power portfolio. And that's exactly because the market needs that. So the company gets a seat at the table when it's dealing with these data center upgrades, these data center expansions, and they're having conversations with the companies that are building these data centers, and power has been a constraint. And so they're working with them and seeing, oh, we need to develop this. This is an area that we have expertise in, and we could benefit from the expected growth industry wide. So they are investing in that. And that's going to very likely lead to increasing revenue and profitability for Vertiv Holdings. The management goes on to say that it's going to be even more important going forward. It's not just about clean energy. It's about managing different sources of energy and doing that in an increasingly efficient manner. So efficiency, even a couple of points of efficiency, can mean millions of dollars in energy cost for a data center. And increasingly, data centers are using various energy sources to generate power for data centers. And these data centers, infused with AI technology or optimized for AI technology, are consuming so much more power. So the sources of power, being able to integrate different sources of power depending on the cost, the reliability, and the quality, will really enhance a data center performance. And like this manager is saying here, like the CEO is saying, even a few percentage points of improvement can mean millions of dollars of cost improvements for these data center operators, right? Knowing when to use solar power and wind power and traditional energy and backup power, all of that comes together to really drive the total cost profile for these data centers. And that's going to become so much more important going forward. It was already important, but now that the cost to operate has increased, the importance of 1 percentage point improvement is now that much more, and Vertiv is playing a critical role in that cost savings with its liquid cooling solutions, and now more so its battery and that technology as well. So companies really have to focus on the cost, because they don't just want to offer these innovative AI solutions. They want to make money on these solutions. They want to make money on these data centers. If they're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. So profitability and energy is becoming an important part of the profit profile for these data center build-outs. So one of the concerns from investors with Vertiv is that it's building up a large backlog of orders that's going to take years to deliver. And you might think, well, that's great news, right? When a company has, let's say, like Boeing, for example, they've got $300 billion or over $300 billion in backlog of orders for its planes. You might think, well, that's great that you've got that large backlog. True. On the one hand, it is very good that you have the order backlog, because you become more certain of what your demand is going to be like. And so all you've got to do is produce to meet that demand. But one of the risks that rise when you've got those large backlogs for, let's say, 60 billion, that's going to take several years, is that in those backlogs, you have certain price agreements where you've agreed to deliver your product at a certain price to a certain customer. But what happens if 2 years later, your costs go up meaningfully, where you've agreed on this deal for $2 billion, but then inflation gets out of control, like it has been, and you realize, man, we quoted this customer for $2 billion for this sale, for this order, but it's going to cost us $3 billion just to make the stuff to give them. So we're going to lose money on this deal. And so that's a risk, right? That's a big risk. And so management is talking about here, explaining how they deal with that risk. And so they're saying that there's agreements and in their backlog that goes out. When they price it, they factor in several scenarios. When they negotiate the terms, they factor in ways to be able to have conversations and have triggers with our customers should the direction of trouble from a cost perspective be different from where we are forecasting. So they've put in clauses in the contract to say, look, if the price of X, Y, and Z goes up by 5, 10, or 15%, then we're going to come back to the negotiating table and reprice that contract that we signed. And so they've put into the agreement terms that allow for adjusting the price and thereby reducing that risk that the cost to deliver is going to be much higher than the company anticipated when they entered into the agreement. And they also have the ability to link their supply agreement with their customer agreements. So they have an ability to look at their supply chain and look at the customer contract and tie it into the supply chain. They could say, this order is going to cost you, the customer, $2 billion, as long as our suppliers can supply this quantity of this product at this price. And if they increase that price by 5%, then we're going to have to increase the price of the customer agreement by 5%. So thereby the supplier agreement and the customer agreement are linked so that when one goes up, the other goes up automatically, and thereby removing the risk for Vertiv and Vertiv stock investors. All right. And then management talks about where these orders are coming from. And like we've seen with many other companies, NVIDIA included, these orders for Vertiv's liquid cooling solutions are predominantly coming from hyperscaler and co-location companies, most prominently from hyperscalers. These are the Amazon Web Services, the Google Cloud, the Microsoft Cloud, Oracle. Those are hyperscalers. That's where the build out, the majority of the build out is coming from. And that's where orders for Vertiv's products are coming from most prominently. Now, the company talks about, well, there is a possibility it expands beyond those large cloud providers. And the manager here, the CEO, says, is there a possibility that businesses become part of the accelerating artificial intelligence build out? Sure, he says, I think there's a possibility in that. It's still very early stages. So for now, businesses haven't gotten around to building their own AI data centers. They're predominantly using the services provided by AWS and Google and Microsoft, etc. Right? The Walmarts of the world are not building, for the most part, their own AI data centers. The Home Depots of the world, they're not building their own AI data centers. Right? The Costcos, those companies, they're not building their own AI data centers. Boeing, think of those large businesses, right? Right. For now, they're using the cloud-based providers, but things might change. They might say, hey, it's worthwhile to build our own data center and operate our own data center because the costs are rising and the importance is rising enough where we bring that in-house. And so there is a possibility that, but right now we're still in the early innings where it's mostly hyperscalers. Maybe 3, 5, 7 years from now, those businesses like Boeing and Walmart and Netflix, they start to build their own data centers and operate their own data centers because at that point, maybe the cost benefit is in favor of bringing that in-house and operating your own. So there is a possibility of that. It's just not there yet, is what the CEO is saying. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.